In July 2025, Vladimir Putin personally received the newest addition to his nuclear arsenal, Pozarsky, a gigantic submarine weighing 24,000 tons, which, despite its size and weight, is practically invisible underwater. And do you want to know what's even more impressive? It is capable of diving to depths of 500 meters, that's deeper than most skyscrapers reach. But what really makes this submarine terrifying isn't its weight or size. It's the 16 Bulava missiles hidden inside it. Each of these missiles can carry up to 10 independent nuclear warheads. In other words, this single submarine carries enough power to launch 160 nuclear bombs simultaneously. And that's more nuclear power than some entire countries possess. With its advanced propulsion technology, the Pozarsky was designed to be virtually undetectable. It can appear just a few kilometers off the American coast, launch its missiles, and disappear before any response is possible. It's the kind of weapon that keeps generals up at night because you never know where it is. It was quite evident that Putin was proud of his new crown jewel. The submarine had just officially entered service in the Northern Fleet, located in Gadjievo, one of Russia's most secure and secret bases. But then, in less than 2 weeks after Putin celebrated his new nuclear toy, something absolutely extraordinary happened. Ukraine did something that broke all the rules of modern espionage. Something so audacious, so unlikely, that it may very well have left the Kremlin in total shock. On August 3, 2025, Ukraine's main intelligence directorate, known as Zhuhua, made an announcement that shook the world of espionage. They didn't whisper in secret channels, they didn't send a discreet diplomatic message. Instead, they went on Telegram and shouted to the whole world, "We stole all the secrets of Russia's most advanced nuclear submarine." And, to prove they weren't bluffing, the main intelligence directorate did something unprecedented in the history of modern espionage. They published 10 pages of the Knyaz Pozarsky's top-secret documents for everyone to see. And do you want to know exactly what Ukraine managed to steal? The answer is simply astonishing. First, the complete crew list. All 107 sailors who operate this nuclear submarine. Not just the names, but their qualifications, physical fitness levels, medical evaluations, and even their specific roles on board. Imagine having in your hands a complete dossier on each person responsible for operating one of the most lethal weapons on the planet. According to the submarine's combat manuals, I'm talking about the exact procedures the crew follows in case of an emergency. How they respond to attacks, how they control damage, even the daily routines on board. It's like having the submarine's instruction manual. And finally, the detailed technical schematics, the internal drawings of the submarine, where the watertight compartments are, the survival systems, the exact location of critical equipment. These schematics reveal the structural weaknesses of the submarine, where it is vulnerable, how it can be attacked with maximum efficiency. And here is the detail that proves how this operation was even more sophisticated than it seems. Ukraine obtained engineering documents, including a specific technical report about a damaged radio buoy dated September 2024. This small detail reveals something frightening. The Ukrainian espionage operation had been active and collecting data for almost a year before making everything public. They had been inside the Russian systems for months, quiet as ghosts, collecting every piece of valuable information. Now, I don't know if you understood the gravity of this situation, but this is something devastating for Russia. To understand why, you need to know what makes a nuclear submarine truly powerful. Why? It's not simply the fact that it carries nuclear missiles that makes it a threat. Warships can do that too. The real power of a submarine lies in a single word: invisibility. A submarine is a weapon you can't see coming. It can appear out of nowhere, attack, and disappear before you even realize what happened. That's why nuclear submarines are considered the perfect tool for intimidation. They create a threat that no one likes. The fear of the unknown, that paranoia of knowing that somewhere in the ocean there could be a ghost loaded with nuclear missiles, just waiting for the right moment to strike. But Ukraine has just destroyed this key advantage in a way that no one expected. They turned the ghost into something visible. Now, any competent Navy can use this information to detect, track, and, if necessary, destroy Kinya's Ozarski. The technical schematics allow adversaries to program torpedoes to hit specific weak points instead of simply aiming at the center of the submarine. Knowledge of operational procedures allows one to predict exactly how the crew will react in an emergency. This makes it possible to plan attacks that turn a controllable situation into a fatal disaster. And there's another problem. Just as serious. The crew list turns each of the 107 sailors into potential targets. Intelligence agencies can now try to recruit, blackmail, or coerce any member of the crew. The families of these men have also become vulnerable. Any serious Navy facing this level of compromise would be forced to consider taking the submarine out of operation until the entire crew could be replaced. And that's not something you do in a week. We're talking about months, possibly years, to train a whole new crew. I know many of you must be thinking, but how the hell did Ukraine manage to do this? Well, the answer is going to reveal a vulnerability in Russia that's much worse than any technical failure. That's the question that must be keeping a lot of people in Russia up at night. And the answer to that question lies in two main theories. The first suggests a classic human intelligence operation. Someone inside the Russian Navy was probably turned, so to speak, by the Ukrainians. It could have been a disillusioned officer, a sailor with financial problems, or even a civilian employee with access to the systems. The second theory points to a rather sophisticated cyber operation. Those working for the main Directorate of Intelligence would have penetrated the Russian Navy's computer systems and directly accessed the servers where the documents were stored. Now, these two theories don't necessarily exclude each other. They may have managed to do both. In fact, the most likely scenario is that both worked together. A cyber operation made possible by internal corruption. And this is perhaps Russia's deepest vulnerability in this story. It's not a technical flaw that can be fixed. It's a human flaw, a failure in the integrity and loyalty of the people who should be protecting these secrets. Stop and think. You can have the most advanced technology in the world, but if the people responsible for protecting it can be bought, blackmailed, or deceived, none of that matters. That explanation really makes sense, because there is an epidemic in the Russian army that makes this vulnerability almost inevitable. Look, corruption in the Russian army is no secret to anyone. It's a documented epidemic, and it probably exists throughout the entire army. But in Russia's case, soldiers pay bribes that can reach something equivalent to $38,000, all just to avoid being sent to the front lines. In Ukraine, police officers receive $100 for each detainee they manage to convince to sign a military contract. 40% of the Russian military budget allocated for the purchase of new weapons is lost to bribes and corruption. Just so you know, Russia is considered 3 to 4 times more corrupt than Germany, France, and the United Kingdom. According to the Corruption Perceptions Index, this index is basically a global ranking that measures the level of corruption in each country. As you can see, the idea that someone with access to the submarine systems could be bribed is not just possible, it's almost inevitable. This insider wouldn't need to steal all the documents personally. He would only need to provide a single piece of the puzzle, a password, physical access to a terminal to insert a flash drive, or simply click on a carefully prepared, malicious link. As long as that digital door was opened, the main Directorate of Intelligence cyber specialists could get in, escalate their privileges, and steal mountains of data. And here we come to a detail that makes this story even more shocking. Why? What happened with POSASC is not an isolated event. The breach of Niaz's POSASC is secrets. It's just the latest in a series of disasters that have hit the entire Russian nuclear arsenal in less than a year. Land, air, and sea. All 3 ways that Russia uses to launch nuclear missiles have been affected in less than 12 months. In September 2024, Russia tried to test its new intercontinental missile, called Sarmat, considered one of the most advanced weapons in the Russian arsenal. The missile exploded on the launch pad, completely destroying the silo. It delayed the program by years. In May 2025, it was the Yars missile's turn to fail. Once again, the missile never left the ground. These are the weapons that make up the land-based part of the Russian nuclear triad, and they are consistently failing. The air-based part of that triad didn't do any better. In June 2025, Ukraine carried out something called Operation Spiderweb. They managed to smuggle more than 100 drones into Russian territory using trucks. They recruited unsuspecting Russian civilians to help with logistics and then attacked 5 strategic air bases simultaneously. Dozens of Russian strategic bombers, including Tupolev 95MS and Tupolev 22M3 aircraft capable of carrying nuclear weapons, were damaged or destroyed. Some estimates suggest that up to 1/3 of Russia's strategic bomber fleet was eliminated in a single operation, and that's not all. The maritime part of the triad was also hit by forces that Putin can't control. In July 2025, besides the breach of the Niaz Posask's secrets, an 8.8 magnitude earthquake off the coast of Kamchatka generated a tsunami that damaged the Hibachi nuclear submarine base, a crucial port for the nuclear submarines of the Pacific Fleet. Land, air, and sea. All 3 ways that Russia uses to launch nuclear missiles have been hit in less than 12 months. Between test failures, Ukrainian attacks, and even natural disasters, the Russian nuclear arsenal is being hit from all sides. And most of these problems have a common cause: corruption, a deep disease that is corroding Russian military power from the inside out. The same corruption that Putin uses to maintain the loyalty of the elites is destroying the effectiveness of his army. Now, consider this. When a significant portion of the military budget is diverted to bribes and personal enrichment, the inevitable result is lower quality equipment, poorly trained personnel, and dangerous shortcuts in the manufacturing and testing of weapons. But the complexity of an intercontinental missile or a nuclear submarine doesn't go well with this kind of negligence. Financial corruption translates directly into mechanical and electronic failures. The truth is that the breach of the Knyaz Pozharsky's secrets forces us to completely rethink Russian military power. On paper, Russia is still a country with many nuclear weapons. In fact, the largest arsenal in the world. In reality, their weapons malfunction, factories have issues, and security is failing. This event shows us that even the most secure systems can have vulnerabilities, and that Ukraine has become surprisingly skilled at finding and exploiting these vulnerabilities. They not only obtain valuable secrets, but also manage to publicly humiliate Russia in the process. Now, I want your opinion. Given what we've seen, do you still view Russia as a military superpower? Or do these events show that it is more vulnerable than we thought? Leave your answer in the comments. If this video made you think differently about modern warfare and military power, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. See you next time.